Hello and welcome to GCSC Corporation Catchup. My name is Jonathan Hudson. Joining me as always is our Superintendent, Dr. Harold Olin. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. We are very close to spring break, which we'll talk about your plans a little bit later on. But before we get to spring break, we have a few things to discuss. So winter athletics wrapped up, so that season is kind of over and we're looking towards spring sports. Any highlights from our sports teams here that you would like to discuss, or band or anything of that nature?
We have a lot of activity that goes on throughout the winter season. I think about our swimmers, our wrestlers, basketball teams in particular. We spend a lot of time there. I'm very proud of the way that our boys basketball team fought. That sectional game we were honored to host this year, sectional for the 4A. And the boys basketball team on Friday night played probably the best game I've seen them play in a long time. And that was a really good Anderson team, and we were up by 28 points at one point in that third quarter. So the defense was just tenacious, and we were hitting from the outside, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Obviously, it didn't end exactly the way we wanted it to in the sectional final. I think it's 3 years in a row we've been in that sectional final and not walked away with the hardware, but boy, I am so proud of the way that they fought throughout the season. And in a similar fashion, our girls basketball team kept getting better and better throughout the year. Aside from I think Ms. Jones, our only senior on that team that played significant minutes, that young team kept getting better and better throughout the year. So I'm excited to see them next year. We talk about our winter athletics. I know we had some of our wrestlers that continue to perform very well. We're going to miss Tristan. He's been a big part of that wrestling team for a while, and he's one of many that just work really hard and represent us well. And then talking about great representation, you have to mention the swimming programs that we have. The girls winning sectionals and the conference again, and sending many to state, and many of our boys pushing school records. I'm just very proud of the work that Ben Felver and that coaching staff has done with our students. So that's definitely been a highlight for us. I also think about our cheerleading team and our dance team that have had some successes in the invitations they've had. Last night we had the band program, color guard, indoor percussion, indoor winds. We had, I think, 5 or 6 groups that performed in the gym last night, from 3rd grade all the way through our high school kids. What a great event. The turnout from our community was amazing. The bleachers were simply packed. Just a positive moment for us as we highlight some of those successes we had in the winter.
Yeah, and it's, winter's over, and that's fantastic. So obviously swimming, like you mentioned, we take it for granted how good they are and how great programs we have at this school, and our student athletes are just doing great work, and our coaches are right there. So now we're looking forward to baseball and golf and tennis and all those sports that come with spring. So moving on, we have our board meeting that was this past Monday.
Yep. And
there were a lot of topics covered there. Is there anything that you would like to sort of let the public know in case they kind of missed a few things or just need to get caught up?
I'll talk about a couple things. First and foremost, we've been talking about the school calendar for the 2027-28 school year. In fact, I think we talked about that last time I was in your studio here. We brought that before the board in a third reading last night. We really pulled a lot of information from the community through surveys, just taking comments through Facebook and other social media avenues. In the end, we decided we would stick with the balanced calendar for another year, which means we'll have our 2-week seasonal breaks, fall, winter, spring. We will start school the last couple days of July, but we'll finish before Memorial Day. So we'll continue that for at least another year, and we will have that posted on our website. I think it's already there. Technically, you could go to that under the parent tab.
Okay.
Now, in addition to that, from the board meeting, we talked a lot about construction. We've been working on what we formerly called the Frost property, or the Greenfield Central High School West property. People have been driving by and asking about the tennis courts because they look fantastic. We are waiting for some warm weather, some dry weather, so we can finally seal and stripe the tennis courts. We've got just a little bit of patchwork to do on some curbs. The only thing that will really be outstanding for us here in the next couple of weeks will be the hawk signal. Now, we do have a way of getting people's attention for students crossing Franklin Street there. There will be a light, what we call a hawk signal, That was installed, some people may have noticed that was installed for a couple days about President's Day right before that, and then within 48 hours it was taken down. There was a little bit of a problem between that cross beam and the power line above that. There needs to be a certain amount of clearance, and it was a little bit too tight. So we're working on a redesign to that, but we should be able to utilize that for our spring tennis program here, maybe after tryouts. You mentioned spring sports. We've had some great weather the last couple of days, and you saw people on the baseball, softball field, soccer field, and tennis courts yesterday. So I know that they're itching to get out there, and weather permitting, they will continue to do that.
Yeah, you know, from a coach standpoint, obviously we know Coach Mitch very well at the baseball. He saw that warm weather. He says, guys, we are
outside.
Yeah, you know, Cliff, get your clubs. We're going outside. Any practice you can do now is super helpful. So the tennis courts look fantastic. I know, you know, Mr. Holtzclaw and Mr. Turpin are very excited to get the young ladies out there and just enjoy that new facility. Is there any updates to the Frost property we can expect maybe summer or even in the fall as far as expansion? Any talks?
We will not be expanding that in 2026. I can definitely tell you that. As we've looked at our finances and projected out projects we need to do over the next couple of years, we've put a lot of attention into the restructuring that we're doing. That was one of the pieces we talked about in the board meeting, in which we had the Haneen Cater and Misha from Lancer were there talking about the plans that we have for Weston, Harris, GIS, and Maxwell. We're really close to finishing up what you call design development. We had a 3-hour meeting yesterday as we kind of do a page turn where we look at these designs one page at a time. Those documents will be going out to the streets for people to bid on those here within the next 3 weeks. So that's pretty exciting. We also had Skillman there to talk a little bit about construction cost and what that timeline looks like. But the last borrowing that we did, we borrowed about $12.5 million. We're going to use a little over 8 of that in the construction project for our restructuring. Again, that allows us to combine our 2 intermediate schools into one. It'll allow us to move the current K-4 students from Weston over to that Harris site in 2027. And of course, you remember we'll have all of our preschool programs going to Weston. So we're utilizing the construction dollars mostly for that. There will be a little bit of money left over at the end of that, or there should be, assuming the bids come in where we expect them to. We'll do some work with some boilers, chillers, roofs, parking lots. That's a long-winded answer to say we're not going to have proceeds left to work on the Frost property. It is in our long-term design to have baseball and softball fields over there. It's just a matter of when that timing will be. I can tell you that won't be in 2026.
Yeah, no, I understand that. With the restructuring, there's just a lot to do, and you mentioned all those construction projects, and you know, you're moving different schools, so you need bathrooms and everything else like that. So I'm sure that process will, you know, happen when it's time, but it's just nice to have the property.
We have the property, and I remind people, we bought that in 2018. We've been pretty patient on that. As you look over the last decade, we have brought improvements to a lot of our facilities to support the programs we have. Of course, the Performing Arts Center is still that golden child out there we talk about a lot. But I mean, we've done a lot of things on the athletic front, whether that be soccer fields, football fields, weight room, locker rooms. We've done a lot, even the greenhouse, to support the programs we have here. It's not one of those things you can just do it all at once. We want to be responsible to the taxpayers. We've kept the tax rate well under $1 for a while. It's at 94 cents, by far the lowest in the county, and we want to make sure that we're doing it at the right time.
Understood. In the fourth quarter, one thing that did come to mind is we do have testing season coming up. So what does that look like for our young learners? And is there anything that parents or the community should be aware of as far as those dates, if you do know them, and kind of what to expect there?
You know, you mentioned the fourth quarter. I'll back up just a little bit. Over the last week and a half, we've been doing a lot of our iRead testing with our 2nd and 3rd grade students. Fortunately, I can tell you we've gotten those results back, the preliminary results, and we're testing at a higher percent passing this year than we were at this point last year. And last year was a really good year for us. So we're doing a lot of good things on the foundational reading side of things. Now, you asked about the fourth quarter specifically, because then we start talking about grades 3 through 8 with the iLearn testing that we'll do. Obviously, we do a lot of testing here at the high school with AP. Some of our dual credit classes have some pretty high stake finals as well. So yeah, it can be a little stressful, I think, for students in the fourth quarter. I've always said that the fourth quarter, it's like the mile run where you run 4 laps around the track, but you run fastest on that fourth lap.
Yeah.
School is that same way. Our cadence is so quick. When we get back after spring break, it is just a sprint. That does include some assessments, but spring sports and the performing arts and the plays, and there's just a lot going on. It is my favorite time of year.
I feel like it's everyone in education's favorite time of the year because you start to celebrate the year that you've had, but you're also just still working on a lot of different things. There's
Yes.
a lot
of things come to culmination.
Yes, yes. So to wrap up, you're a person that believes that as a staff member, it's good to get away and take time. So what would you say to our staff with the spring break coming up, and even the students and families to refresh and get ready for this sprint, as you say, in the fourth quarter?
You're using a lot of the terminology I've shared with you over the years. I think it's important to remember as an educator, we're always giving. We're giving out to our students and to our staff. You can't give if you don't have something to give. It's kind of like the well metaphor. You can't give water when it's dry. So it is important for staff members to refresh a little bit. That doesn't mean you have to go somewhere, but you do need to take a break, do some things that you enjoy. If you're fortunate enough to be able to leave town and have some new scenery, I think that's helpful. If you can't for whatever reason, or you don't want to, it's still important to get outside, go for a walk, do some of the activities you love to do. Even if you want to stay indoors, maybe it's reading a book, you've got to do something to refresh your spirits.
And then along those lines, once again, as we wrap up, what are you doing over spring break?
I'm pretty easy and predictable. I will be looking to Southwest Florida.
There you go.
And I need some sunshine.
Yep, and guaranteed warmth.
Yes, Southwest Florida gives you that.
It's usually guaranteed warm in Southwest Florida. Well, I will be taking my daughter to the aquarium in Cincinnati.
Newport Aquarium.
I've never been.
Yeah,
we hear
I love
it's fantastic. So.
Yeah, I've certainly taken my 3 kids there. There's a lot to read, a lot to learn, and there are things in the sea that are almost frightening.
I know, that's what I'm kind of like looking forward to. Like I want to see some things I've never seen that I don't know exist. That's what's so interesting about aquariums to me. But Dr. Olin, thank you for coming in. You have a great spring break,
Thanks,
safe travels, and all those as well. Have a safe spring break. We'll see you after in the fourth quarter, and thank you for watching.